Objection.
Rice don't have any. Rice don't have any.
Oh, yeah.
Rice?
Oh, I didn't put it in.
That's too bad.
That does a lot different than we do. We have active cases. That doesn't this type. Otherwise, it's getting
Okay. All right, everybody ready to start? All right. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Ellie, you're gonna have some heavy lifting. All right. I don't have any comments. Roll call. Ellie Holm.
Yes.
Randy Hackett, here. Russ Garrett.
Here.
Mark Petron.
Here.
Noel Gerard. Not present. Mary Lang. Not present. Let the record reflect that we have four board members here, which gives us a quorum. Looking for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Russ and Mark, you both have a copy of the agenda in front of you?
Yes. Yep. I'm following along in board book.
Sweet. All right, it was moved by Director Holm and seconded by Director Garrett to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion?
Oh, I need to amend the agenda.
This is the time to do it.
I know, I'm sorry. We need the approval of the audit as a motion item. Didn't add.
The action item. You're gonna make that item H under action items, approval.
I think there's an H, so it'll be I, right?
Well, there is an H.
Wait, no,
Sorry.
I.
Approval of audit.
Yep, of the 1920 audit as presented.
Like the 2019-2020 audit. All right.
Of the 1920 audit as presented. I'm gonna stay muted.
Director Holm, are you okay with this?
Yes.
Director Garrett, are you okay with this?
Yes.
Is there any other amendments to be made? It was moved by Director Holm and seconded by Director Garrett to approve the agenda as amended. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I.
Aye.
All who oppose? All who abstain? Motion passes 4-0-0. You them guys got to vote.
Pardon?
Is that all right if they just vote
Yes.
by roll call? Or does-
It's just by
doesn't have to
vote,
be?
it doesn't, it's not a roll call.
All right. Okay, looking for approval of minutes of the October 26th policy meeting, the November 10th special meeting and canvas meeting. I'll make that motion.
I'll second, ready.
Director Holm beat you. It was moved by Director Hackett and seconded by Director Holm to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting on October 26th, policy meeting of November 10th, and the special canvas informational meeting of November 16th. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All who oppose? All who abstain? Motion passes 4-0-0. The audit presentation.
Susan? Jackie, you are up.
All right. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna try to share my, oh, I can't share my screen. I'm disabled from doing that. So, Don, do you want me to share my screen and want to enable that for me, or how do you want me to proceed with that?
I see that here. Can you hear me, Jackie?
Yeah, kind of. Can you repeat what you said?
Yeah, we can't hear you in the boardroom now. I'm assuming David can
Yes,
just
we
enable
will-
that.
We will enable you to be able to have your screen shared. David, are you ready? We're just working that out.
Okay.
Just a minute. Yeah, Susan, everything's on her computer, so she's setting it up. Okay, it'll be just a sec. All right. I think we're almost there, just a sec.
Okay.
Just to let anyone listening, number one, it's excellent to see so many people online with us. There'll be an open time where you can make comment for Jackie. During this time, if you have some questions to ask her, that's what this is all about. If you want more information, certainly the board, if you have more information.
I think he's got to do something on the back end, Jackie. He'll be right out.
Okay.
Okay, Jackie, if you want to try.
Can everyone see the PowerPoint now?
Yes, it's up on the screen.
Okay, perfect.
Yep, we can see it online as well.
All right. I'm Jackie Knowles from Bergen KDV. Tonight I'm going to be going over a summary of the results of our audit and also a summary of the financial results for 2020. So the main purpose of our audit is to issue our independent auditor's report. In this report, we state that management is responsible for the numbers in the financial statements, and then our responsibility is to perform some test work on those numbers and offer an opinion. And this year, we're able to give an unmodified opinion. It's the clean opinion. It's the best that we're able to offer, and the same that we've been giving the district basically means that the amounts in the financial statements are presented fairly, the financial position at June 30th, 2020, and also all of the activity that occurred during 2020. There's a few other documents that we're also required to issue. The first one we have listed here, the report related to government auditing standards. So that's a requirement because you're a school district in Minnesota. We take a closer look at internal controls and then compliance with grants, contracts, regulations. We had no compliance findings, one internal control finding. It should sound familiar, lack of segregation of accounting duties. A repeat finding has to do with the small accounting staff needed to handle all of the district's duties. So just an awareness, we want the board to be aware that there is some overlap in duties there. And then the final report, we are required to look at compliance with Minnesota statutes. That's a requirement of the Office of the State Auditor, and we had no findings there. And then the last thing is the financial analysis, which we'll move to next. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the basic formula allowance, the basic piece of your general education aid, because that's going to greatly impact your revenues. And so you did get a 2% increase in 2020. You can see here. And then of course, the other main contributing factor to your general education aid is going to be your student counts. So we have a couple slides looking at student counts. So we start off looking at your resident students. So these are students that reside in the district boundaries, regardless of where they attend. And your resident students were up about 4.8% in 2020. And here's that same information, just in a graph form. So you can see overall increase over the last 5 years to the high point in 2020. And then we convert those resident students to what the state calls adjusted PUN. So what that means is that top line, we take those residents from the previous slide and we weight them using the weighting factors shown at the top. So you can see secondary students are weighted a little bit higher. And then we account for the effects of open enrollment to get your total adjusted PUN, as this is what your general education aid is paid based off of. So your adjusted PUN was up a little bit, up about 4 students in 2020. And again, that same information in a graph form. So you can see pretty consistent adjusted PUN over the last 5 years. And then we'll move into looking at some of the dollar amounts. So we'll start off with general fund revenue. Increase in general fund revenue in 2020 of about 6%. The biggest increase was in your revenue from the state, which is your biggest piece of revenue. That was up about $383,000 in 2020. And the reason for that increase is primarily that 2% increase in the basic formula allowance that I had talked about earlier. And your special education aid also went up. Taxes were up a little bit with an increase in the general fund's share of the levy. And then your other revenue was also up. And the main reason for that is that student activities that were previously not under board control were required to be brought under board control and recorded in the general fund starting July 1st, 2019. And so you see the revenue related to that in this other category for the first time in 2020. And here's our revenue graph. So you can see overall increases in revenues over the last 5 years, with the high point of just over 10 million in 2020. And then we'll move on to looking at budget to actual results. So the final column here in the middle of the page, the budget was amended during the year, increasing both revenues and expenditures and anticipating an increase in fund balance of almost $66,000. You can see actual results. Fund balance ended up increasing about $844,000. So when we look to the variance column, we can see the reason why fund balance went up so much more than was budgeted. So when we look at your categories of revenue, actually every main category of revenue ended up coming in over budget. The biggest variance revenue from the state, that was being conservative with budgeting for student counts. So general education aid came in over budget, and then also special education aid exceeded the budgeted amount as well. One of the other bigger variance was in other local sources. That is the student activities coming in under board control. So those revenues are seen in the actual amount, but they were not budgeted. And we'll see a corresponding budget variance in the regular instruction expenditures. So again, the student activity related disbursements show up in the actual amount, but they weren't budgeted. All of the other programs of expenditures were under the budgeted amounts due to conservative budgeting primarily, and then also some things such as supplies, substitute costs, things like that basically came to a stop or slow down significantly in the spring due to COVID-19. So all of that together resulted in the big budget variance and fund balance going up more than anticipated. And then we'll move on to looking at expenditures. Expenditures were up about 1.5% in total in 2020. One thing that we like to look at with the audit is to see, typically expenditures are going to go up, but we like to look to see if the allocation is consistent from year to year, which it was when I looked back to this chart last year, just 1 percentage point here and there, up and down. So very consistent allocation. And then the other thing that we like to look for is the percentage that is spent on instruction, which is regular instruction, vocational and special ed added up, and those equal 64% in 2020, which is right in line with MDE's guideline of about 65% on education. And then we have some comparative info. So these amounts come from MDE, and we can look at revenues per ADM served. At Royalton, revenues per ADM served were up in 2020 with that 6% increase in revenues that we discussed earlier. Revenue per ADM served does continue to be less than the statewide averages. And when I looked at the sources of revenue, what was contributing to that, the biggest variance was in property taxes, about $1,500 less per ADM in property taxes, and about $1,000 less in state aid than the statewide average. And then expenditures show a similar picture to revenues with an increase in 2020 with an increase in expenditures of 1.5%, but significantly below statewide averages. And then we have the operations of the district summarized for the last 5 years. So in 2020, we have the increase in revenues and the increase in expenditures that we saw earlier with the fund balance increase related to 2020 activity of about $844,000. Then we have this change in accounting principle here for the first time in 2020, and that is, again, those student activities, that this is their beginning balance coming into the general fund. It's primarily student activities. There also is a little bit of scholarship money that was also required to come into the general fund. So when we look at that increase in fund balance, we can see where that increase occurred and what component of fund balance. So we have the new restriction for student activities and also a new restriction for scholarships. Oops. And then the other big increases were in the assigned category. So this was something new that the board approved by majority of vote to set aside for potential roof maintenance, reading program, and other future needs. And then unassigned was also up to over 1.7 million at the end of the year. And we like to look at that number to see where it falls in accordance with your policy. The 1.7 million is about 18% of 2020 expenditures, and your policy is a minimum unassigned fund balance of 15%. So you are in compliance with your policy. This next graph is another way of looking at your fund balance, and then we compare it to cash and investments. So you can see those numbers have correlated very closely over the last 5 years. And in 2020, you did have a big increase in fund balance, so cash and investments increased as well. But I think that this graph is really important to look at this year because this could change in the future. So the district has control over its fund balance as a result of your budget process and following your budget, but you don't have control as much over your cash and investments. The state has typically held back 10% of state aid to the subsequent fiscal year, but that could change. We've seen it increase to up to over 40% in the past. And with COVID and state budget issues in the future, we could see that increase again. So if that would change, what this graph would look like is fund balance would probably be consistent or increase depending on district budget, but the cash and investment balance would decrease significantly. So something to keep in mind for the future. And then we have another way of looking at fund balance percentage. So this is a calculation that's done by the state, and it's a way that we can compare you to statewide averages. And so this is a specific calculation. It looks at your unrestricted fund balance. So it does account for that assigned fund balance, but we do separate it out in our calculation. So your total calculation percentage done by the state was 26.8% at the end of the year, which does exceed the statewide average of about 20%. But taking off that assigned fund balance, you're more in line with the statewide average at 21%. And then we'll move on to looking at the food service fund, a decrease in revenues this year with a decrease in meals served due to COVID-19. Expenditures were pretty consistent. So fund balance did decrease about 19,000 as a result of 2020 activity, down to about 51,000 at the end of the year. And then the community service fund, same as pretty much every other district that we're auditing this year, did see some decreases in both revenues and expenses related to decreased programming because of COVID. But both did decrease fairly proportionally, so you did still see an increase in fund balance of about $62,000 this year. And that was it for the financial analysis that I was going to walk through. I don't know if anyone has any questions. We can go back to a specific slide.
You have questions, Elliot? I have questions.
Yep.
So am I getting it right that the new student activities fund, that the new way of accounting is that has to reside in the fund balance then?
Yep.
So then we should be looking at our fund balance policy, because that's a big effect on that.
So the way your policy is worded right now, you only discuss unassigned. And so the student activity fund balance here, I guess wouldn't be included, but it is still in the expenditures. So it impacts that number that's used in the calculation.
All right. I just had a question. So we always get dinged for having a small accounting office and not having enough people to divvy up the jobs. Is there a test that you run on the numbers, or a test that you run to kind of check that, or is that just it is going to be what it's going to be every year, or do you run a test on that?
We come up with specific tests every year that address our risks. And so our risk assessment includes a higher risk because of the low number of accounting staff. And so there are certain procedures that we do every year to address that risk. And then as far as the audit comment, it's just, it would take probably a couple FTEs to get rid of that comment at a minimum. And so it's just an awareness. We're not recommending that the board get rid of it or that, but just to be aware that there is that risk there. I don't know if that addresses the question.
Go ahead.
A lot of districts in the state have this finding. It's a very common.
Yeah, I realize that. I just was wondering if they, I assumed that they ran a test against it. So, one of the slides, I think it was the 12th or 13th slide, it says that we spent 1% on vocational. Yeah, that was that pie chart. Do you know what the state average is for that on vocational expenses?
I don't off the top of my head. I can try to pull something up here quick.
I just was kind of wondering how we stack up against the rest of the state.
Yep, let me just calculate this really quick and I can give you an answer. State average is 1.2%. So pretty much right in line with the state average.
Is there anybody else that has questions? Anybody else that has questions? I'm going to give it a little bit more with the technology thing going on. So, are you good? You good? All right. Well, I'm not hearing anything. So, with that, Jackie, thank you for your presentation, and we'll be moving on in our meeting then.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Recognition of citizens for input purposes. Is there anybody who wants to speak to this? Anybody who wants to speak to recognition of citizens for input purposes? All right, we're gonna move on then. If you're trying to get in and we missed you, we'll come back. So, reports and news, board committee reports. The policy committee met, and we have 3 policies that are going to be, 5 policies that are going to be on later. We just keep on working through them. Anybody has suggestions for them, first and second readings, get them to the policy committee or John or I, and we'll we'll look at them. So, any other committee reports? Business managers report?
I will definitely, can everyone hear me? I don't want to unmute.
I think you're good.
Okay. I just want to go through, I said it each month that I was going to post for the board the analysis of estimated change of position in our budget. So I did have that put into the board book, so I'm hoping everybody had a chance to look at it. With COVID and with a lot of the changes in food service and going from in-person to hybrid to distance, and there's just been a lot of time keeping up with other things, but I have been assessing the budget, and I think for 2021, if you look at it, we're not doing terribly in our general fund. We are down, as of in APUs, which is adjusted pupil units, or our butts and seats per se, with the weighted factor. As of October 31st, we're at 1,019 pupils. That is a lot less than what we had last year. It's 21 students less than we had last year. So that's going to impact our budget for about $220,000 if it stays in this direction. There is hopefully some legislation coming out, we don't know for sure, that could hold us harmless for year 2021, but I can't guarantee that. So right now we are running, we will run a small deficit in 2021 in our general fund. So if the board looks at our Fund 1, I have given the full general fund restricted and unrestricted unassigned fund balance to look at, and it shows we're about 117,000 total deficit. But that's early preliminary numbers. Like I said, our numbers could go up, they could go down. This is the time of year, we won't know more till the end of December, honestly. Fund 2 is going to show a loss. There's just no way around it. Food service is struggling with distance meals and people having to pick up for their children. We're doing about 40 to 45 meals a day. That's impacting, and I still have to have a staff here to prepare it. So do be prepared for us to show a loss in food service, possibly a significant loss. We'll see if the feds can come in and help us out a little bit with that. They have been offering free meals K-12 for anybody through December 31st, or if they have exhausted federal funds. So far that has not happened, but they haven't guaranteed that we're going to get any money past December 31st for additional assistance with food service. Other thing with community ed, so it's the same scenario. MAP has been our daycare program, our childcare in the mornings and afternoons has been pretty good. It is, I believe, shut down right now for distance learning. We are doing childcare for what do you call that, John? People. Yeah. Essential. Sorry, I have a brain thing. It's a Monday thing. So for essential, we are providing essential daycare. There's about, I believe, 20 kids in it right now. Just want to let everybody know that both parents have to qualify to be essential to have their child or children in essential daycare. So I will be presenting each month our estimated change of position, because I think this year is very volatile, obviously, there's going to be an impact. Not so much this year, because we did get some federal aid through CARES funding, and we got some technology aid or grants through GEAR, and so we have gotten a little bit of help. But watch out, next year and the year after is when you're going to maybe start seeing a crunch. Jackie, when she suggested that the state is going to withhold more than 10%, it's a reality, it's going to happen. And what's happened when that happened, it happened in 2008, 2009, and 2010 under the Valenti administration. Schools were borrowing short-term from local banks. There were tax shifts to help manage the budget on the state end. So don't be shocked. We're going to see that again, folks. It's going to happen. Not this year, probably next year, because the state doesn't have funds that they can just can't print paper, so just want everybody to know at the meeting that is a reality, so. I am going to be frugal, we are very, very, very frugal when we budget, we're conservative, so. Just so that that's gonna continue to happen. There has to be a real need. We might show great this year, but the next year, we don't want to pick our numbers. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Hey Don, this is Russ. I have a question.
Yes.
So I think so. What are we down like 22 pupils? Is that staying fairly consistent, or is that fluctuating month to month as well?
Well, it's only been September and October, but I pull an enrollment twice a month, and it's been very consistent at that 928. I think we'll start seeing some shift. We usually do in that January mark. I think Joel sometimes he has some transient population. The biggest impact has been in the elementary with some homeschooling. A lot of the elementary is not homeschooling. Joel's had some homeschooling too, but his is more of a transient population. I think he could talk to that a little more, but it's been consistent. It's been down 22 since the beginning of September. And I have been budgeting. When I budget, I'm budgeting for 1,021 pupil units, weighted pupil units. So my budget is down. I mean, obviously it's down. So I'm hoping we don't show a serious impact. So, yeah, it's been consistent at that. Actual butts and seats has been 928, K-12.
Any other questions for Don?
This is Mark Petron. This might be more of a question for Tony, but being down 22 students, will that change your class of sports?
Can you repeat that, Mark? I couldn't hear you.
I got it too. He's wondering if that would decrease, the decrease in numbers, would that put us into a different class for sports? Tony, can you answer that?
Yeah, no, I don't believe so. We're most of our sports we're high enough in, like, say, AA, and not, for single A, for wrestling, academatics, we're in single A, and all the others we're not low enough where that would be an issue for us right now.
Any other questions for Don?
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the superintendent's report.
As the board's aware of, I think everybody is by now, that we moved into distance learning for the reason that we ran out of staff virtually. Matter of fact, today, I think on a one-day average, we probably gained more people out for quarantine and for positive tests and waiting for tests to come in than we've had normally. So what we came back, we've lost already in one day. It's something we have to look at with the warning that's coming out for Thanksgiving. There's some considerations, but that's at a different time that are going on. What we're finding out is, Tony, you correct me if I'm wrong, we're not seeing a lot of in school, and that's one of the things we look for very carefully. We contact trace them. And if any of our staff members ever, thinks they got it from a student or something, we need to hear it back. But the vast majority is off campus. They're normally picking it up at home from another family member along the way. And I'm talking everybody that seems to be getting it. And then fortunately, we've been very fortunate. Most people detect it fast. I smile a little bit. I go back to Johns Hopkins in March. They said probably one of the first things is smell and taste. And I think that has been one of the telltale signs for most of our faculty, staff in general, and also a couple of our students. Would that be correct, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay. So tonight we'll be talking about that a little more, and I have some ideas, and I think the other principals do too as well.
Any questions for Superintendent Phelps? Okay, thank you. Principal's report.
I can go first if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I want to recognize the good work of the staff today, and that'll go on tomorrow, getting ready for distance learning. So how well they're supporting each other and working as a team and really getting ready for next week. We've learned a lot since we did distance learning last spring, and we've really come together, and I think we're going to really make it as valuable of an experience as we can for the families. But I mostly want to acknowledge the really good attitudes, people working together and supporting each other, and I think that's what we all want to see. So that translates into good support and care for the families. Also, our essential childcare will be up and running next Monday. So far, we have about 22 children enrolled. And thank you to the good work of Dawn Hofstad, who's been coordinating the childcare, and the paras who have really volunteered to work for the most part in the childcare. We have some good attitudes. We're going to be using the media center for 2nd through 5th grade, in the map room for the younger children. We have one of the paras from kindergarten coming over who's familiar with the kindergarten children and better able to work with the younger children. And we have 4 paras who will be spread out. So our goal is to provide a lot of support as the children are working on their long distance learning. And Kathy Pop will also be helping in the media center. So I think for those children, there's going to be really good support. And we're reminding everyone to bring home their devices and all their learning materials. I mean, that's what we did. And we're reminding all the children coming into essential childcare to bring all those things with them. And I know we'll be talking about our learning models later. I'll just say I'm going to talk a little bit later then about the possibility of having preschool come back in person, maybe a little, at least by December 7th, but depending on, even if we stay out a little bit longer, see about having our preschool, if possible, come, because of the unique needs of those very young children who we are doing distance learning with now. So we are making a good effort with them also, but it does work much better in person, particularly at that grade level. So I guess just all in all, wanted you to hear that the staff at the school are really good attitude. Of course, everybody wants to be in person, but we've learned a lot about using technology since last spring. That's it.
Are there any questions for Dr. Gurbata?
Yeah, Dr. Gurbata, do they need to register before they bring up in a child for essential workers?
Yeah, these are all families that have pre-registered.
Okay, I just wanted to put that out there so other families knew. And then who is considered essential worker? There have been some changes in the rule from last year. And they can look up online who is, but there's a change in the rule. Could you go into that?
Yeah, of course, it's, looking at one of the, tier 1 workers. So a lot of that is related to the health field. All the teaching staff is considered essential workers, and we did put up on the website all those who would be eligible for essential childcare. And one change, it was really there all along. We just never enforced it, but felt with the higher numbers and making sure we had the staff, we have started to enforce where families, both parents in the family, have to be eligible as essential workers for their children to participate in childcare, because we anticipated we were going to have more numbers, and we do, and that might grow, and we have to have the staff and the support and the space to work with those children. So we wanted to start out slower and basically just used that rule or regulation that was already there. So that is one change.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Gabata? Okay. Moving on, Principal Swenson.
Yeah, I would like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, like Dr. Gabata said before. I think everyone is ready for a chance to maybe take a nap over the next 4 days, possibly. We are, since 2020 has been so fun, we've decided to move on to 2021-22. We are working on the master schedule at this time. Meeting with the high school departments and starting to put together the plans for next year in terms of class offerings, makeup of the department, required courses for graduation, changes to the, like I said, changes to the offerings that they are going to have for next year. That process then moves into, usually we have registered our students at student-led conferences. We're not sure if we're going to be able to do that in February, so we are working on, we will be working on developing a plan where we can register students online. That's going to take more time, but we will have a plan for that. That was typically end of February is where we started registering students, and then go through and schedule the students and have their schedules out to them. Hopefully, well, I mean, we've almost always made it by the end of the school year. I'd also like to thank the teachers, paras, cooks, bus drivers who had their world turned upside down, office staff. The game is different for every one of these individuals, K-12. Their efforts have been impressive, selfless is the way I would describe some of the things that the amount of learning. You know, one of the things that we become frustrated with in education is it's like turning an ocean liner around in a bathtub. It takes forever to make change, and this being thrust on us last March and then again this fall, some of the efforts that have gone into improving technology use. And I at one time thought that one time I had argued that, you know, planning an E-day for a snow day would be a monumental task. Well, I think we could probably do that in our sleep after what we've done in the last 6 months. So all of the people working together have done just a great job coordinating the efforts, and it's not easy. It's not an easy road, but everyone is doing the best they can to make the best of the situation and do the best we can for kids. When I expected that I would receive some complaints about the distance learning and about just the learning models, and it's not easy for families, it's not easy for kids. Thankfully, I would say it's been about 4 to 1 the opposite way. At least at the high school, I have had more people send me emails saying thank you for the changes that were made to distance learning, and while nothing's perfect, it is much better, and their kids are more engaged and more involved. And so it's been kind of a nice surprise in terms of, as difficult as the situation is, people are, I think, recognizing it for what it is, and that it's difficult all the way around. And the more we work together and maintain communication, I think the better off we all are. So thank you.
Joel, so when you are planning the calendar, does the learning model that we're in, does that have any effect on what classes you might offer or not?
We're not looking right now at what is happening at this moment in terms of we will plan like we're planning for a regular school year. When it comes to if we looked out and the prospects of this being something that we were going to be dealing with for the next year, we might rotate a few classes out of the schedule for a year if we knew we were going to be doing distance and hybrid for a long time. We may register out some classes that we would typically do. But I'm hopeful that in the fall we'll be able to return to school like we were this year and be in a better position. So we are scheduling currently as if we were going to be back in business in September.
One anecdotal thing I'd like to share with you, Joel, is that I've been thinking that the thing that the kids are missing the most is just being together. And I noticed the other day at lunchtime, my son was in a chat room or a game with, I don't know, 15 to 20 other kids, and there was boys and there was girls in there, and they're all just laughing and having a good time. So along with the staff and the school learning how to get along, the kids are learning how to socialize through the electronic devices. And I don't know if that's a great thing, but it's better than nothing. So it's good that they have the devices to capitalize on them to be able to have that interaction. So
I agree. I think I have seen, I sometimes worry about, Xbox and Fortnite and all the things that I hear my kids on with their headphones on and they're talking to people. And, there's a part of it, as I've realized as we've gone through the last 6 months, that might be something that we look back on and feel fortunate that our kids had that chance to have that type of community. I know if I was in school, I know back in the 90s, there wouldn't have been that opportunity. There wouldn't have been opportunities like this to have face-to-face contact or computer-to-computer contact like that with each other. And I don't know what we would have done, and I don't know how students would have maintained that connection. So I think there is some positives that are going on because of the technology that they're exposed to and are knowledgeable of.
And I really urge you to keep your eyes open, because this will probably forever, even when we get back to the normal learning model, this will change how that even works. So
absolutely
more proficient on the computer than what we ever thought they were going to be. So, all right, is there any other questions for Joel? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's not on the agenda, but Tony, did you have anything with COVID?
Sure, I can give everybody kind of an update of the big news that really applies to my job, and that is the pause that's going on, and it effective last Friday through December 18th. What that did is it ended our volleyball season, and we had one more regular season home game that was supposed to be played, and then the week after Thanksgiving here was supposed to be sectioned. So that cut us short in the postseason end of things. Boys basketball was supposed to start today, and with this pause, what it's done is hasn't really given us clear direction on when that's going to come back into play. Right now, we're not given a definite start date, but December 19th until told otherwise. There's going to be some changes to schedules, timing. All of that's going to happen here in the next. The board of directors meets on Thursday, next Thursday the 3rd. So we'll meet as ADs and as CMC and discuss how we want to proceed with our conference games, and then that'll adjust our junior high sports as well, moving forward until we get to spring. It's going to be hurry up and wait here. I don't project with the amount of time there is before the end of the year. We won't have any games or contests until after the first of the year. There's just not enough practice time to get enough practices in to compete. So that's a given. It's just how long is the high school league going to delay us in starting our winter sports?
Okay. Are there any questions for Tony?
Yeah, I have one you might know. Can teams come in and use the weight room anytime with this new setup like we were before?
No, anything that's deemed as extracurricular or for school, after school, all that extracurricular stuff is shut down. It applies to the weight room, gyms. There was a specific mention at my meeting with the high school league last Thursday. Can individuals and families rent out the facility if it's just them? And that answer is no, we can't do that. So any type of weight training practices, organizations, anything that's extracurricular is a no-go.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, is there any other questions for Tony? Thank you, Tony, for all your work with these numbers and stuff, so.
Certainly, thank you.
Yep,
Chair,
yes.
there are no.
Discussion and information and action items. Claims, accounts, and financials. Somebody want to move that?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I'll second.
It was moved by Director Holm and seconded by Director Hackett to approve the accounts payable and receivables and employee reimbursements as attached and approve all other financial reports as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All who oppose? All who abstain? Motion passes 4-0-0. Approval of donations has gotten, it is not, we don't have any donations. So it got cut and pasted, so that happens, so. Approval of resignations. We have Libby Harold and Sharon Zabinski.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I'll second.
It was moved by Director Garrett and seconded by Director Holm to approve the resignations of Libby Harold and Sharon Zabinski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All who oppose? All who abstain? Motion passes 4-0-0. Approval of hires. Is there a motion to move this?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
It was moved by Director Holm and seconded by Director Garrett to hire Robin Nyreen for LPN nurse, Autumn Hayes as an elementary school paraprofessional, Teddy Morgan as a C squad basketball coach, and Ted Hansen as a junior high boys basketball coach. Based upon the findings of each individual's background check, licensure status, and discipline report from the Minnesota Department of Education. Is there any discussion?
Randy, I do have a discussion.
Okay, go ahead, Ross.
So on the approval of new hires, that list that you read, I also see in the actions, there's also a long-term sub that's there, but they're not listed above. Just wondering if that should be added or if that should be removed.
No, we do have a long-term sub. I'm sorry, I should put it on there. She is gonna be here December. Oh, for this distance learning December 7th. We have maternity leave to the end of March.
Do you have a name?
Mary's Kozlowski. Say that fast.
Outstanding job for us last year in special needs, and then also this year for another maternity.
So she will definitely get a long-term substitute contract that we put in policy this last in June or July.
Okay.
Thank you, Russ.
Do you have something?
Yep, both on the basketball programs, I'm assuming that's under the same stipulation as we had the dilemma over this spring. for
We're gonna
coaching.
use the same.
Yeah, the hours or percentage or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
At the same time, if they start up basketball all of a sudden,
Well, right,
we have to have them ready. to go.
right, yep.
But at least we have a policy going into it this
Yep,
time.
I'm totally fine with
I'm
that.
cool with it, so. All right, I'm gonna read it again, guys. It was moved by Director Holm and seconded by Director Garrett to approve the following hires based upon the findings of each individual's background check, licensure status, and discipline report from the Minnesota Department of Education. We have Robin Nyreen for LPN nurse, Autumn Hayes for elementary school paraprofessionals, Teddy Morgan for C Squad basketball, Ted Hansen for junior high boys basketball, and Mary Kozlowski for a long-term sub. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
All who oppose? All who abstain? Motion passes 4-0-0. The Minnesota State High School League Foundation.
This one, you will need a roll call vote for, just so you know ahead of time.
So this resolution is an annual one. It's called Form A. And what this does is it gives school districts from the MSHSL Foundation money back based on the number of free and reduced kids you have in the district that participate in activities and athletics. This foundation operates separate from the high school league. I know it's out there that the high school league has passed a significant amount of cost onto the school districts, but this is a separate entity. Form B is one that's later on. They are holding off on all Form B applications. Those are specific needs based on some criteria, but Form A is based on the free and reduced lunch kids that we have participating. The allocation, I think last year, I'm just kind of going off numbers here, is about $425,000 they gave back to schools. They're about $100,000 less this year that they're going to give back to Minnesota schools. So just looking for that resolution so we can submit that and see what we can get back from the foundation.
Okay.
Tony, is this the resolution that has to be signed after the roll call?
Yeah, it does have to be signed and submitted, correct.
Okay, point of order. If it is a roll call vote, do we call all members or just the ones that are present?
You have to call, roll call.
And the majority then,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just wondering.
Do you have the resolution, Randy?
I do not have the resolution.
Let me see if I can hold it up here.
One moment, Susan? Have David print it, we need it today because it has to be signed. We can do the roll call vote, we'll have you guys sign it at the end.
I'll read it.
Yes. It should be in your board packet.
Yeah.
Hey, Randy, I do have a question for Tony if we do have a moment.
You got a moment, go ahead.
Perfect. Tony, did we get our dues this year from the Minnesota High School League? Did we see what it was? I feel like I haven't seen it yet, but maybe I missed it.
We have the initial installment that we had to pay that just says normal. These new installments came out and they were sent actually to Dawn, across Dawn's desk. I never saw the actual numbers. Dawn has those. I did receive a communication last week on the state is kicking in more money for the high school league, and there's some money that's being used from the high school league foundation to offset those costs to lower the burden on school districts, because it does push a lot on us as small districts versus large districts. And I don't want to call it an oversight on their end, but they were looking to reduce that burden on school districts. But as far as the cost goes, Dawn might have a better accurate number for you.
Yes, we paid the first installment in September, it was around $3,200. Actually, it was in that 3,000, I can look it up, but it was double of what we normally pay. But the total for the year was astronomical, and I think that's what Tony's speaking to. Is the state giving up some of that, because our total bill was almost $12,000.
So do we have any recourse? I mean, $12,000. I mean, that's quite a chunk of money. I mean, do we have anything to say that, hey, we're gonna hold off, or what do you have to do? Do you pull yourself out of the Minnesota High School League? I guess I'm not quite sure what happens there when that amount is so high.
Well, you offer less. You offer less sports. If we're not a part of the association, there's no postseason play. Awards for in-state recognitions, we wouldn't be able to do those. And I know it's a lot, for us. Some of the bigger schools, Wayzata, they're in the $24,000 range, 24 to 30,000, but they also have upwards of 4,000 kids in their high schools. So it seems very disproportionate for us as a smaller school to these bigger schools. But yeah, I don't see how we could have reduced it. Yeah, we're co-op with a couple more schools, but that's not where the most of the money is coming from for what's assessed to us.
Yeah, and Tony and everybody that's listening, they heard us loud and clear. Minnesota State High School League did a superintendents in the greater part of Minnesota, which is anything out of the Twin Cities. And they understand what that does to us, having us pay that much money. So number one, the foundation will be kicking some money in. Also, we're very fortunate that Minnesota State High School League, by the way, the foundation, the one that everything, the resolutions for it, they're going to kick in some money for us. But we've also had a few different companies in the state step up, and they will be helping to fund the Minnesota State High School League this year. In the past, we've always relied upon the money made on the tournaments and the sponsorship of the tournaments. They've been working as it was to change that so it doesn't heavily rely on that money. That just ends up coming in to help. And they are working to reduce that amount of money now that's paid by the greater Minnesota schools out there.
Yeah, I guess I'm just really concerned because right now it doesn't look like we're going to have any postseasons. So I guess I'm not totally seeing the benefit of staying in the high school league, especially when the price is so astronomical. So I guess I would really love to hear and see rubber meets the road. Yeah, I can talk about it, but I would like to see something where we get some of this back, because otherwise, I mean, that to me is just crazy, right? Because we haven't used anything from it yet this year.
And I will say schools like Wayzata, Anoka Hennepin, actually Anoka Hennepin, I mean, obviously they're a big metro school. Theirs was like $38,000 and Wayzata's was 24. But in comparison, we're not even a third of that size, and our fund was $12,000. So I think that a lot of superintendents have had a lot of meetings regarding the astronomical fees.
But it's a due and you paid it already, right?
No, I haven't paid one.
Oh, you haven't paid it yet.
It comes in
Just
just
one installment.
Yeah, it comes in right now. We paid the first installment, which was
It was $3,600 and there's 4 installments.
But that's what they're trying to reduce before we get to it. So you can buy 4 into 36. We paid that first year, which was less than we normally pay, or about
It was
the same.
more. It's usually $1,600.
Okay. Just so you know. Anything else for us, Tony, and I can help you with on that?
No, I guess I'll just, John, do you know when the next installment is due?
December.
December, yep.
No problem.
Well, I would love to then have a discussion. I don't know about it in December with the rest of the board. I mean, I guess that's just like you said. Our first installment was already double what we paid last year, so that's crazy. I'm not sure. I need more information. Like, where's the cash going? What are they doing with it? Because that just right now, I don't see us getting our bang for our buck out of that. So no, I'm good, and I'm on that topic. Thank you.
Would you like to see that on the agenda for the next meeting?
We have, I just think one thing about that. We have not been billed by Minnesota State High School League for the second installment, and what they have labeled them as is COVID installments. So I think there might be some state help also. I think that's why I haven't seen that billing yet, but we can certainly discuss it.
And I don't know that we have any other option, but I think keeping track of that is going to be something that I will continue to ask about, because again, I just feel like that is disproportionate and so much higher for what we're actually getting from them. I'm not sure what we're paying for right now.
It's for that cool video that we have to watch every year.
Well, we should get some money back then.
All right, I have the resolution in my hand here, so I'm going to read it. It's Form A, resolution of school board supporting of State High School League Foundation. Whereas the Minnesota State High School League Foundation was formed to provide support for Minnesota's high school youth to participate in athletics and fine arts. Whereas the District 485 Royalton School Board recognizes the value of student participation in extracurricular activities, and whereas the Minnesota High School League Foundation is offering grants and funding to assist school districts in recognizing, promoting, and funding extracurricular participation by high school students in athletic and fine arts programs. Therefore, be it resolved that the Royalton School Board supports the district's application to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation to a Form A grant to offset student activity fees. Did everybody get that?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to do this as a roll. Is there any more discussion on this? All right, I'm going to do a roll call vote. If you vote aye, you're going to be voting for it. If you vote nay, you're going to be voting against it. Director Holm.
Aye.
Director Garrett.
Aye.
Director Petron.
Aye.
Director Hackett. Aye. Director Gerard. Director Lang. Okay. So how does, point of order? It's a no vote if you're not here? All right. So the vote goes 4-2-0. The motion passes. All right. Moving on to the Minnesota Power contract, I don't know, what is it, agreement?
Yeah, it's more of an agreement than anything else. And this is the one that I talked to you about earlier, and you said that's fine. They wanted a space that was 50 feet by 50 feet to put on a relay station, I believe. They worked with us, they didn't charge us for helping us get the lights set up 2 times. It's kind of standard. What I did not like about the agreement is literally it was to have the rights to that property forever and pass it on. So I asked at the time to the school board, back when this first came up, could I do a little work with this? And you said yes. And so I had our lawyer go through it, telling him what I wanted on there, which limits the amount of time. Instead of forever, we have a 20-year one to start with, and they're renewable every 10 years, 5 times. So they would have access to that unless 2 years prior, or the year prior to, if we decided we're going to build or something where that area is, we can say, nope, we need you to move it, and the expense is on them, not on us. The reason I brought this up, because of one of those type of relay stations, we couldn't do what we wanted to on a facility at one of the schools I was at. And if we were to move it, it would have cost more to move it than it would have the whole project. So it delayed the whole thing, and they were not nearly as cooperative as Minnesota Power is. So this will give us that right. It's set up, we cut it down from 50 foot down to 30 foot. They were good with that. And this is exactly what our lawyer recommended.
It's already been approved, so all we need is your signature and we'll authorize it.
But are there questions would be the biggest question.
I just wanted it to go in front of the board so everybody got to see it before we signed it, so.
It should have been in the board packet.
No, it didn't come in until today. So I'll put it in the board package so everybody can see it.
Oh, yeah.
We've been talking back and forth, the negotiator for them and me.
What is it? Randy, Susan has a comment.
Susan,
It's in the board pack, it's attached, the board pack.
Yeah.
They have it.
Except it's not this version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one is the correct one by our lawyer, and then this is just about as close as you can get.
Okay.
A few minor adjustments we agreed on. So you can look at that part in the board packet.
Russ and Mark, are you guys good with this when we move on?
Yes, I'm good with it. I'm glad the changes were made.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Months at future boards was something we decided now. And like I said, forever, that's a long time.
All right.
Or a fairy tale, one or the other.
Policies, third reason in policies, we got policy number 208, development, adoption, and implement of policies, and 534 on unpaid meals. Remember the ones we're gonna vote on.
Yeah, 534, we changed the name of it, to unpaid meals because we, number one, had to bring it into compliance with the state laws. And number two, that's what the policy really does. It deals with unpaid meals. The development, adoption, and implementation of policies, that pretty much stays the same.
Is there any questions about those two policies? All right, second reading policies is 505, distribution of non-school sponsored materials on school premises by students and employees, and 903, visitors to school district buildings and sites.
Again, there's no recommendation from Minnesota, the Minnesota School Board Association to change those two. What we have is right in alignment with state statute and what we need to do if we have to do either of those things.
Right, and then the first reading of policies is, we did the 214 out-of-state travel by school board members, the family and medical leave policy, student use and parking of motor vehicles, patrols, inspections, and searches, and the staff notification of violent behavior by students. You see there, we did quite a bit of talking about that, about trying to make sure that half-truth or a gossip didn't follow a student around from building to building or from district to district. So with that, I take a motion to approve policy number 208 and 534.
I'll make a motion.
I will second.
It was moved by Director Holman, seconded by Director Garretts to approve policy number 208 and 534 with the changes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All who oppose? All who abstain? Motion passes 4-0-0. All right. Letter H, high school or school learning method.
Yeah, and this is on myself, principals are here again. We briefed you last week a little bit. I wanted to give you the new information that I just got today. One thing that we've gone to with the county, they let us know how many students, how many kids have it in our zip codes, the different zip codes. And so the numbers that you're seeing there for the different schools, for the different zip codes, they are what they are. For our two main ones, I do not get them from Rice, just so we understand that. You can see for us that we have 21 here, and then the other one is in Bolus, we have 6, so we have a total of 27 possible students. Now, some of our students go to other schools that are in our zip code, and we also collect others from other schools. Altogether, though, 27 is not bad. So we take a look then at some other dynamics of it, and we add up the different numbers we have. And I think I might, this is the number of active cases we have right now, which is 57 individuals from Royalton, 19 from Bolus, for a total of 76. I take out the 27, but then we calculate it up. Our students make up 35.5% of the individuals in our zip codes, those two zip codes that have been identified as having COVID. And they are active cases. They're not going on right now. My recommendation would be number one, to see where Thanksgiving ends up with us and move it to the 14th. I had to close it down because of lack of staff. Still might have to stay closed down until the 14th. But to me, that would be a minimum to shut her down until December 14th and see what the repercussions are from Thanksgiving. It also gives our food people an opportunity. They have to order what, almost a week ahead of time? A week and a half ahead. So that gives them some more time to replay. 14 days from Thanksgiving would be the 9th. We also will be meeting as a committee to talk about some of this as well. I also wanted to show you the active cases in Morrison County, 713. With that thought, Morrison County has 33,169 people. And then I wanted to compare that to Benton County with 41,000. And their case rate is at 97.8. Ours is at 215.4, one of the higher ones in the state. Tony, do you have something to add to that?
No, nothing more to add. The big thing from the state, from our regional co-op Sourcewell and MDH is anywhere from 2 to 14 days is when symptoms can manifest, and we look 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. That gets us into the middle of the week we're supposed to come back. So we could have people not have symptoms and then come to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week and then get symptoms, which will put us into a bind.
Don, you have an opinion on this?
I just want to piggyback on the food service. So, like this week, we have to order by next week Tuesday to get food through December 9th. So we have, I know it's just because it's a shelf life and because food is expendable. That's why it's not week to. It's hard to do week to week because we can't get the food. We have to order our bread comes to almost a week and a half ahead. Our milk. We threw out a lot of milk because distance learning and hybrid happened like within a day or two, and we weren't servicing milk and camps couldn't take it back. So we ended up discarding a lot of things that have shelf lives. So I just want the board to understand that when food service is kind of a big deal when we're planning our returns, because we have to make sure we have food planned, ordered, and prepared for our return. It's not something that we can do in 2 days. I'm sorry to say that, but we've got to have some preparation time to get this ordered and product in.
Phil or Joel, do you have something to add to it?
Phil, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I would go back to what I said earlier, whether the board would consider bringing back preschool a little earlier. In other words, staying with that December 7th date for preschool. We'd have very few numbers in the building, and distance learning is very much more difficult with those younger children. I know the preschool teachers and staff are eager to have the children back, and the parents are paying separately for that program. And I think some are concerned that I'm paying that fee and all I'm getting is distance learning. So we have that going on. We don't want to get too many people dropping out. And I think we'd also, even if you were open to that, we'd have to look at the numbers leading up to that to make sure that, you know, we felt we could do that. But that would be one possibility of, you know, trying to respond in a way helpful to families, I think, and one that the staff feels, the teachers feel okay about trying. So anyways, I guess if that's possible, I'd like you to consider that, having the preschool come back on December 7th. It's mostly 4-year-olds and one section of 3-year-olds.
Hey, Dr. Gabata, how do the preschool, how do they get to school? Are they bused or are they brought in by their parents?
Some are bused and some are brought in. The 4-year-olds, all the 3-year-olds are brought in by parents. Some of the 4-year-olds are bused, and some of them, the parents drive them in.
So if we would keep preschool, how would we would send buses then just to get that group of children?
Well, we're sending some buses anyways because we have special ed students coming in. There's quite a few from the high school. We won't have as many at the high school as the elementary, but I think if you add it all up, we'd probably have 50 high needs kids coming in anyway. So those routes, in a sense, are going out anyway. I think that is, you know, a good question. That's a good consideration. Galen isn't here, so I'd have to have that conversation with her also. But it's not like we would run the buses just for the preschool, other than maybe Wednesdays, because I'm not sure if the high school special ed kids are coming in on Wednesdays or not. I guess Joel could speak to that. So there could be a day where it would just be preschool.
Dr. Vada, I have a question. So I understand with the kindergartners and stuff, is there a way that we could shift enough staff around in case we would get where we had to quarantine somebody? Because if we're going to make this decision, I don't want to have to change it on these parents. We're going to make the decision to allow somebody to come back, then we're going to have to hold ourselves to hell or high water to try to stay open for it.
Right. I think we'd have to check the numbers next week, see what they're doing. As far as shifting staff, I mean, I think there would be a risk. I think, for example, if 2 of the preschool or even 1 of the preschool teachers went out, we probably would be have a problem that way. So there is a risk of that. It'd be more difficult to just throw somebody in there, right?
I'm not a professional.
So Tony, as far as staff that are out with positive COVID, are they saying after they're done with their 14 days that they have the antibodies or immunity built up? I mean, is that still something that they're saying? I mean, so then we really wouldn't, I guess necessarily, I don't want to say worry about them getting infected again, or have they said anything about that?
90 days is the threshold that I've gotten from MDH, and that was way back in September when they said that. And they told you have 90 days, not 91 days. You have 90 days. So you have 90 days from when you're positive to have that peak immunity. And after that 90 days, you would then have to hit the reset button. And if you're a close contact, then you got to be out again. The risk is there after those 90 days of getting COVID again. It's happened. I don't know how prevalent it is, but they do have those 90 days. Yep.
And I have had that discussion with several people about that have had it, and they feel very comfortable coming back, and they're aware of the 90-day rule, not 91, but 90-day rule with that, which helps, but it doesn't help necessarily. You might have one person out, but then there are other people out working in the room in close proximity. That's one of the problems with that. I don't have a problem bringing back pre-K, provided the numbers stay. If we see the numbers diving down, then it's one thing. If we see them going up, I do not. And we've seen this happen in the area, that you go in, you come back, you go in, you come back. That's not good for anyone. And I think we really have to take a look at that and discuss it. And I think I put out to you as a board, let's take a look, not next week, but the following week, later on in the week, to make that decision. It might be a lot easier to decide for, let's say, pre-K and get that turnaround quick than it would be for, let's say, all elementary.
Well, I guess the question is if we could bring pre-K back, can we bring pre-K and K back? Can we bring pre-K, K and first back?
I would like to
Can we
look at
bring pre-K,
three.
K and first and second back? I mean, somebody's got to have a pretty good idea. It's not me, but somebody's have a good idea of how far we can go, keep the distance in the elementary, and keep the quarantines to a minimum. Don?
Yeah, and like John said earlier, it wasn't the kids, it was the staff.
Well, right, I know that, but, and, you know, we're all just one phone call away from getting told you were exposed, so 14 days, so. But-
Yeah, ideally, I think pre-K, it's a court fee, and parents want their money back, obviously. And kindergarten and first grade would be ideal, and then maybe up to second grade, but you guys, you know, John and the principals have to let you guys know if that's even.
This decision needs to be made on safety of the children, not on dollars in the bank, because that's the last thing we should be considering. But we also have to consider that this kid's education is probably the most important thing they got going right now, other than their safety, so it's right up there with it, so.
As a financial person, Chair, I have,
Yeah, I understand that.
Not to be reprimanded, but
Oh.
I do have to bring that up. That is
And that's your job. Today in this building and right now, that's your job, so.
Yes, it is.
And I'm with you, Ellie. I would love to be able to bring back pre-K through 3. We know those are the most difficult years. They start to separate a little more at 3rd grade, where they can learn really better on it. And ideally, it'd be wonderful to bring back the elementary. I think we have to have. That's why I asked if we could go to the 14th, and we make a decision like on the 9th. That would give us a chance going. We should have a better picture of what's going on at 10 days after Thanksgiving. Tony, you correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere around 10 days to 14 days is when we see things peak from an event.
Don, do you have something to add?
Yes, I do. I might sound frustrated here, but we can't make a decision on the 9th for the 14th because we won't have food. It does, I mean, we gotta be proactive. I mean, we gotta be able to know and feed our children also. That is a big, huge priority for the school district, is to be able to feed the children.
Is there a way to get the food not through the food service?
No.
We have to do it because we have contracts. Is there a way that they can expedite it?
Well,
I mean,
imagine we have.
could we do a 5-day order?
No, we're not the only school district in the state that's dealing with this. That's the problem.
I get it,
I know,
and then if I don't ask, I don't know, so.
Right. It could be a normal year, but like anything this year has been anything but normal. We usually are not 2 weeks out on food. Getting food is a problem because of backups with manufacturers. It's not been a normal year.
If you're a food supplier, you have stuff that's going bad in your freezers and refrigerators too. And so that's gonna shrink the supply chain. I get all that. I wonder if it's not an acceptable risk to order enough food for kindergarten and first grade or something.
And we can do that, and that's not a problem. We cannot say we're bringing back
I mean,
K-12 in 4 days.
no, but I mean, if we were gonna bring back 1 or 2 grades, maybe it's an acceptable risk. I don't know.
And is it something we could use on the, like, for the childcare?
Yep.
Is that's the same?
Yep, I just didn't want it to be a decision K-12.
No.
No.
We made a serious situation.
Well, and you've seen.
Take the bus to McDonald's, go through the drive-through. We need 145 big chickens, let's go.
So Randy, and so my opinion, right? And I don't know I don't think we're voting on anything or anything tonight, but I would really, I don't mind extending out to the 14th because I think at a minimum we have to stay out till the 7th, right? Till we thought we'd have staff back. I would support going out to the 14th, but on the 14th, I would like to say the goal is to bring back pre-K to 3rd back in school and everybody else in hybrid. That's what I would like to see the goal be. Now, I don't know how realistic that is, but that would be something that I think we should work towards.
How do you feel, Russ? Is it an acceptable risk to throw some food away if we plan to bring like pre-K and K in first grade or something back on the 7th? Is that an acceptable risk?
I think I guess I'm a little concerned about the busing and can we make it work? I don't, maybe we can, but I don't, if we wait 5 more days, does that push it over? I guess if we're, like you said, absolutely confident that we can bring that group in 7 days earlier, I'm just, at this point, I'm not sure, right? Because we talked about wanting to give that time to see how it goes over Thanksgiving. And, and I'm not so sure that we aren't already, like John said in the numbers, we're Morrison County, right? We're just skyrocketing, right? And I don't know. My sense is that there's so many people that are having it that Thanksgiving isn't going to balloon it up as way we thought because so people have it. But I would rather, in my opinion, I'd rather wait, bring everybody back. I think that's a little more consistent. But if we're confident that we can do it and not kick everybody out again, I would be okay to order that food and not end up using it. I'm okay with that.
For the grades you mentioned, is that correct?
Well, I think Randy mentioned preschool and kindergarten or preschool, and I think Dr. Gabata talked about preschool. Again, my first choice would be I want everybody back the 14th, pre-K through 3rd, and then do hybrid for 5th through 12th. That would be ideal for me starting, and I can see going back to the 14th to make sure that we are in a position, again, not to quit before Christmas.
That sounds like a motion.
Well, I don't know if we're looking for a motion or not, but I mean, that's just my opinion. And that would give us what, I'm trying to see my calendar, 2 weeks before we would go to Christmas, or a week and a half?
Yeah.
Okay.
We also have a meeting on the 14th, so we know that's our regular board meeting. And it's truth and taxation on that day as well.
So I don't know what. So I would I'll make the motion for that to. I don't want to say postpone to have the Royalton kind of air quotes restart date to be December 14th. Again, that pre-K through 3rd grade would be back in person, and then 4 through 12 then would go back to a hybrid approach. I guess I would be interested to hear Principal Swenson and Gerbata as well. I mean, am I crazy? Is Does that make you guys squirm a little?
You get that?
No, I think it's reasonable.
Principal Grabata, do you wanna speak to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Russ is proposing is reasonable. It makes sense. I know the preschool teachers are real eager to get back, but we're talking about a week, gives us a chance to look at numbers. And I think what he said clarifies maybe what our goal is. And there's definitely something about keeping everybody together. I understand that.
Principal Swenson, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm concerned about busing. You know, when we made the decision to go to hybrid, the number in the county was approximately 72 cases per 10,000, and today we're at 215 cases per 10,000. And if that number keeps going up and we're sitting on 300 or something like that on December, I know we take local consideration, but it's telling you that there's more of it out there and that we're possibly going to be facing the possibility of more quarantining and more exposure for the people who have to make it happen. I think the critical piece is busing. I know Galen is not here to talk about it, but we're really walking a razor's edge here in terms of being able to bus kids to school the way we've done it in the past. So, I mean, our goal, I would love to have the kids back and do the hybrid. I'm nervous about the direction that Morrison County and the area in central Minnesota in general is heading with this. And I'm hoping in 10 days that we have a better picture of what that looks like.
Would you be optimistic at all that if we put a call out to parents that we would get a good response or not? For the
Well, I think people have good intentions, and then the realism of their work situations become apparent, and it makes it more difficult for them to commit to that. But I mean, it might be a conversation that we are forced into if we drop another bus driver or have the problem is you have a kid gets on a bus and takes a ride home and they end up positive. That bus driver is out and that route is out. And that is the biggest limiting factor to what we have going on across the district for in-person learning. That is the like I said, the critical piece. It could be encouraged that, we've had I know inquiries about activities in the past couple of weeks of parents being able to just bring their kids so they avoid the buses. And we've never had to do that. And we've really tried not to have that happen. But in 2020, I think any conversation we have about being able to maintain schools, I think you have to look at all options.
What doesn't help is if a parent drives 500 kids from 5 different families in their car, because that just spreads it more if it happens to be in the car, and that's a lot closer than any bus. I'm thinking if we have a meeting on the 7th, Tony, see what you think of this. If we had a board meeting on the 7th, and we would have some good data already to see what the trend is from Thanksgiving. The 9th is 14 days out. Tony, what do you think? Tony is my expert, just so you know.
Yeah, that should be enough time to have data and plan a course of action.
I think that sounds like a wise choice to have more data to make the decision.
Well, what communication do we have out to parents right now? Haven't we indicated December 7th was when we would come back, or am I incorrect?
You're right.
Yeah, you're correct, and that was my meeting not having enough staff. That's
Right.
all.
So are we saying that we're going to review on the 7th with the proposal that we'll try to open again on the 14th, or?
Yeah, I think that would give
Okay.
a turnaround time. What you talked about is pre-K through 3. As we look at the data, I mean, the reason we're missing staff is we're part of the county. And our staff will reflect, and our students will reflect. If you think about it, that over a third of our students have tested in the zip code of Royalton and the zip code of Olas. It's a direct reflection to what's going on in our county. If we keep seeing the numbers going up, or let's say it goes down slightly and starts to rebound somewhere around 10 days, then we already have an indication what's going on. We know in general that usually on Sundays, we don't get a big bounce for Monday, but we certainly do on Friday and Saturday.
Okay, so where we're at right now is we've got a motion on the floor and a second. I'd like to move to kill that thing for right now, because I don't think I'm ready to vote on it. So I move to table it forever. Is there a second?
So you don't wanna.
I don't want to make a decision. I don't want
So we're back on the 7th?
No, I just don't want to make that decision. I don't want to make the decision. I'm okay with trying to bring the pre-K to 3 back, but I don't know if I'm okay with the hybrid for the rest of the school quite yet.
I think that's where we do a review on the 7th and see where we are. And it's up to you guys if you want to make, this is on you. Right now,
So you're okay with pre-K through 3 by the 14th?
Yeah, I think that's, now listening to the people that are the experts, and we should be able to, this is my worry, is if we're gonna make a commitment to bring somebody back, we're gonna bring them back, and we're gonna try to keep it going. I think we can do that. I think somehow we'll figure out a way to keep that going with the busing and everything else. I just don't know that we're gonna be able to bring the kids back to hybrid for the rest of them. The rest of them, unless these numbers turn around substantially for us.
So you really don't want to table that for forever?
No, well, I'd like to change it. I don't know. I don't.
Okay.
We can redirect the motion.
Okay, we can redirect our motion. I don't know what tools are available to me right now.
So.
Russ, are you okay with changing your motion to saying something like, on December 14th, we'll bring pre-K to 3 back, and meet on the 7th and decide the fate of the rest of the school?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
the suggestion that we decide on the 7th whether we bring back the pre-K through 3rd. I don't want to give the false, what can I say, false positive, the way things are going. Give our families the impression that we absolutely are coming back on the 14th, and this is the date on our calendar. We will take another look at it. We'll take a snapshot on the 7th to see where we are. I think that would be a great plan.
I think it'd be better if we just said we were gonna do it and did it. Not you.
Not if the numbers are going up.
Okay, but then we could change it. I mean, then we would have to say because of the numbers just not being, I'd rather say it now and go for it than say, well, we decided today that a week down the road, we're gonna decide if we're gonna decide. I mean,
I agree.
we need to try to be positive that the numbers are going to cooperate with us, and we can at least try to bring them younger kids in. It's so important that they get here.
6, 7.
I,
We got what?
Appreciate
16
your
teachers?
service.
We have 15 or 16 teachers.
Well, I think at a minimum, right? We know we at least as of today, we won't have capacity to come back the 7th.
Correct.
So at a minimum, we have to communicate out to our to the parents that we're not going to come back on the 7th. So I think along with that, though, like to you guys' point, we need to decide what are we going to do then, right? I mean, is the 14th? I just think in somewhere in that communication, we should say here is our new plan, right? But there's always a caveat if the second pandemic comes down, we may have to change, but. I don't know. I still think I like the idea of hypothetically we should be able to be back on the 14th to, like you said, at least get that pre-K through 3rd back in person, and then we can evaluate that other group on the 7th. But my preference would still be, but again, things can change, would be to go back to that hybrid. But again, like everybody's saying, who knows what something crazy could happen, like everything has all year. So I think going back to look at that on the 7th is fine, because then by then maybe we'll know something with pre-K that we won't be able to do it.
Right.
But I think our goal should be that.
John, do you have something?
I just want to add that we only have 1 week of school at that point. We're done for the holiday break after 18.
No.
Well, and that's fine, because if we can keep going for,
A week and a half.
isn't it worth it to have those kids in school for that week and a half? I would think it'd be very worth it to have them in school for that
Yes,
week and a half.
just one.
Yes.
I'm all in favor of it coming back.
Okay. Susan, did you get the motion?
So,
Have her, Randy, can she read it back? I don't remember what it is anymore.
I really don't know what it sounds like.
so it was the approval of the school learning method, bringing preschool through 3 back, full-time and 4-12 hybrid, December 14th through winter break. Motion was made by Garrett, seconded by Holm. Redirect motion to bring preschool through 3rd grade back on December 14th. Hold a meeting on December 7th to make a decision on 4th through 12th grades. That's what I have. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Did you hear that, Director Garrett and Director Petron?
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
It's been seconded. I guess Director Holm got it, so are you okay with that?
I am.
All right. You guys want to discuss this, of course, anymore? We need it to death enough. All right. Susan, would you read it one more time? Everybody knows what we're on here.
Yep. Approval of the learning, or of the school learning method. Bring preschool through 3rd back, full-time, and 4 to 12 hybrid, December 14th through winter break. The motion was made by Garrett and seconded by Holm. Redirect motion to bring preschool through 3rd grade back on December 14th. Hold a meeting on December 7th to make a decision on the 4th through 12th grades.
Can we put a hybrid on that? On that 4 through 12? Because that's what we're talking about, right? Or did you just leave it open? Okay, just leave it open. All right, that's the way it is. All right. Everybody's okay with this? We can vote on it? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All who oppose? And all who abstain? All right, motion passes. And you know what? We might be really wrong on it, and we might be really right on it, and only time will tell, but at least we can communicate something to the parents. And I mean, at some point, things gotta turn around, and things gotta start getting better. I don't know when, but sooner or later. Okay, moving on. Letter I, approval of audit. So I'll move this. It's approving the audit as presented by Jackie. I don't know what her last name was now.
I'll second
Knowles.
it. Mark Petron.
It was moved by Director Hackett and seconded by Director Holm to approve the audit as presented by KDV. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All who oppose? And all who abstain. Motion passes 4-0-0. Okay, upcoming meeting schedule. Tuesday, December 8th, we've got a financial meeting, and Tuesday, December 8th, we've got a policy meeting. Monday, December 14th, regular board meeting, and now Monday, December 7th.
Special meeting for the decision.
COVID meeting. Or learning model meeting,
So say
something
one
like that.
COVID meeting, does that mean we have to all get COVID on it?
No, we're not gonna come to a meeting where we get COVID. That's maybe a bad deal there. Learning method meeting. Does 6 o'clock work for everybody there?
Yes.
Oh, you're gone.
Yes.
All day on Monday? Well, I'd have to find another director then. All right. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It was moved by Director Holm and seconded by Director Garrett to adjourn the meeting. Any discussion?
Other than just I want to thank everyone that joined us virtually.
Yeah.
And that wasn't easy. And also, we had all three of our newly elected board members online as well today.
I just like to throw a thanks out for the staff for working with us and providing us with the information and the professionalism that you guys provide us. These decisions aren't easy to make as board members, but with your expert guidance, it makes us feel like we're at least trying to make the decisions that are right. So with that, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 All opposed? None abstain. Well, meeting's adjourned, 4-0-0. Good night, everybody drive safely home.